on this episode of Shooting the Shit with Saints.
All right, to the Warriors and the Grizzlies once again. Sorry for the weird cuts, man. Sorry. All right, I have to do this now. With this, the fighting through the play-in, the acquiring of Jimmy Butler, we have to kind of do a rewind on the season for the Golden State Warriors. Man, this was a team that kind of looked like all the rumors said they weren't going to leave Steph out to dry, but it just seemed like the aggressiveness wasn't there. At the beginning of the season, they kind of were cool with the 13-man rotation that anybody with a brain kind of knew wasn't going to last long. Like, it was absolutely impossible for that to last that long. So it kind of seemed almost halfway through the season like, damn, the Warriors are kind of ass. Steph is still incredible. And he's just going to waste away. And a lot of teams say yeah to that. To a 36-year-old, has injury history with ankles. He's kind of solidified his legacy. It's not like he's trying to reach a ring. It's, he's kind of in stone. Like, Steph Curry's going to go down as the second best or the best point guard ever. Right? And his longevity cannot be fucked with when it comes to undersized guards. I think we have to start appreciating people like CP. I know he's 40 and he averages 6-6 or 8-8, whatever it is. You can laugh at that. You can laugh at that all you want, man. That shit is crazy. But get to the trade deadline. Make the move as a Heat fan, as you can see. Big time move. I wasn't as heartbroken as most Heat fans. I knew our championship window had closed, but I wasn't some like distraught guy. I'm not the dude crying over fucking Caleb Martin. Once again, I've said it a million times. I'm not that guy. So Orlando Robinson is not a Heat legend to me. Solomon Hill gets no mention from me. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. So with the Warriors, they're 20-4 with Jimmy. And to me, the numbers are not impressive with Jimmy, but that isn't why he got brought in the regular season. Obviously, I think they were getting torched defensively. I think anything where Steph wasn't on the court, it was such, and it isn't like the role players are good. I think the Warriors have really good players. I think they aren't the type of players where they have pods where he can go and carry the bench consistently. He's not that guy. And if you think he is, you have basketball incorrect. I think Moses Moody is budding into something where coming up in my era as a 30-year-old, he would have been a 3-and-D specialist and would have been sought after, right? And now that's kind of everybody. Everybody wants a guy who can play defense and shoot 40% from three, and that's what a lot of these guys like Moses Moody do. So I think he is special for them. I think there's a lot of guys like that in the league that don't get appreciation because they aren't on winning rosters or winning franchises. I think a lot of wings fit this mold. Like, nobody knew who Najee Marshall was for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody knew who Najee Marshall was. I don't know why my hands are on my hips like a Karen. I was given had some vulnerability there, bitching a little bit. Kind of sad at myself, but I just thought they lacked a lot of talent at the beginning of the year. In the sense of they need somebody other than Steph. Like, even with the Heat, Bam and Hero aren't some superstars, but they are good enough alone to carry an offense. You know what I mean? Like, good enough to keep you afloat. And if they have a bad night, you're fucked. It is what it is. You know what I mean? That's kind of where they were at. If Steph played bad, they lost by 15. And if he played good, they won by 3. They bring in Jimmy. Jimmy was brought in for a Wiggins, and Jimmy is just a better version of Andrew Wiggins with more of a presence, and you feel him every minute he is on the court, damn near. Pause. The Jimmy move made so much sense with Steph, where, and you just look at it from a super basic standpoint. Steph is never had a guy like Jimmy. In the sense of, if you were creating a team and you wanted if you're a guy, like, you're not looking for balance, you want two polar opposites to create your own balance of strength instead of balance of actual balance, if that makes sense. Like, this is this guy's strongest suit. This is this guy's strongest suit. They don't have much balance of what they do, which they do. But I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? Does No, Hunter, you're a fucking idiot. All I'm saying is one is very paint driven, the other is not. And I think a lot of this stuff is just perfect for Jimmy to be on a team with a guy like Draymond, who is like Bam, but I think Draymond is just a more skilled passer and a better anticipator of what the defense is going to do. I think Bam is incredible. I think Bam does a lot of things a lot better than Draymond, but passing and all that, Draymond is kind of king over that, except for Jokic with big guys. Obviously, Braun's in his own category, whatever. But with those type of guys, Draymond's in his own realm. And I just think with Jimmy, with his back cuts and his ability to destroy people on a pick and roll and really shift your whole game plan and your defensive rotations with how he attacks a pick and roll. And I literally mean how he attacks it. Like, he is not a guy that comes off a screen kind of prancing to the side. He is directly attacking the screen to force the guy that is getting screened to either take the screener or run directly to the rim. And it just creates fits for the defense with how aggressively he attacks screens. And then where Jimmy is a screen setter, or Jimmy is on the weak side of a play that is set for Steph on the strong side, where he can cut back door or get a mismatch or get an offensive rebound or end up nothing working on Steph's side so they can swing it and he can get an ISO on the opposite side. Those are things they were looking for. They have missed that since Clay was in his prime. You know, those are things they have been dying to have, and it's what they're missing. And that's all Steve Kerr kind of needs is two creators and some shooters, and he can have a top 10 NBA offense. They weren't that with Jimmy, but in this playoffs, I bet you they stay at a very high rate of offensive rating and everything. Like, when they get eliminated, they will be top 5 throughout the whole playoffs in all the offensive categories just because of those two. And then with the Rockets, once again, it's almost an opposite style where it's a perfect mismatch, but their half-court offense is so bad. It's so bad that I'm speechless at how bad it is. I can't even describe how bad it is. Mostly when Fred VanVleet doesn't have it going, and Jalen Green, who I'm about to talk to and kind of get on his ass a bit, pause. When those guys are doing shit like that, when they're not making shots, it ain't going to go well. And when Jalen Green ends this series, I'm saying it here and now, when he ends the series averaging like 14 to 17 points on 40% shooting or 37% shooting, right? The talks of the Rockets have to become more realistic a little bit. And I feel bad for Jalen Green because this happens to a lot of young players. Not all of them, because the great ones, they struggle, but it isn't like, damn, they kind of did shitty. I think Jalen Green he just has the aesthetic and the play style of a player that is not going to be successful in the playoffs until he smartens up a little bit. But I'm just going to say it now. I don't need no excuses. He is a young dude. Just say it's his first season in the playoffs. We ain't got to throw out wild shit when Sengun's going to end up busting their ass, when Steven Adams is going to have a damn good series. And what this is reminding me of is a lot of Memphis when they had Brandon Clark like 2-3 years ago, like when we thought they were it, right? When Ja was averaging 37 before Jordan Poole, I believe it was, hit his knee. That Grizzlies, where it's just overwhelming size balls. It's overwhelming. Steven Adams. They had a lineup out there of Steven Adams, Sengun, Tari Eason. Who else was out there? Jabari Smith and Amin Thompson. And that made me hesitate because I picked the Warriors in this series and I'm sticking by it in 7. But goddamn. Sengun's getting whatever he wants, and Steven, they had 22 offensive rebounds and they only scored 85 points. The Warriors were held to 95. So this is the issue. The Rockets are, I would say, pound for pound, probably the second best defensive team in the playoffs to me. I believe they're above the Minnesota T-Wolves, below the Boston Celtics at their peaks. I think at the peak, the Boston Celtics cannot be fucking scored on, it feels like sometimes. And then their offensive output makes their defense look even better, if that makes sense. With the Rockets, they made a comeback on the Warriors strictly off forcing deflections, getting fast breaks going. And as a Heat fan, as a guy who is rooted for a team that is stuck in the mud on offense and just in games in general, it looks like nothing's happening the whole game. I'll tell you this, deflections, and that's the big thing with the Heat that we'll get to, deflections and all that are massive. The Heat don't get them. And if you don't get them with the teams that are stuck in the mud, you're not going to score a lot of points. It's going to be hard for the Rockets to break 100 if they don't get hot from three. And the Warriors are not a team that's going to let you shoot threes considering how they play. You know what I mean? And a lot of these guys are just out of control for the Rockets. You can kind of see it where Dylan Brooks is just a nutcase. He's not even a young player. He's just a crackhead. And then Fred is the only calculated guy out there, but he has such a street ball, whimsical way of playing with Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, all these young guys. Sengun is very calculated just because how he plays. He's just slowed down. A lot of these guys are just out of control. They're not calm. They can't score when it's calm. And that's the thing. Everybody wants them to slow down, and we see their youth, as everybody says with the air quotes. But in actuality, what's going on is that's how they have to play to win. There is no calculated ball with these guys. Tari Eason is not skilled enough in the half court. Amin Thompson is not skilled enough in the half court to get a bucket on Draymond Green and fucking Jimmy Butler. Are you Gary Payton Jr. or the second? Moses Moody. They ain't got it like that, man. Just like Jabari. Every time you get up on Jabari Smith, it feels like he has no handle. It feels like he panics, gets in the triple threat, pivots, and then looks around for somebody to take the ball, and he hadn't even taken a dribble yet. There's all these little things that I'm just like, what is going? This shouldn't be close, but I think this is going to be a super tight series just based off the energy, the athleticism. Steph is not going to shoot 80% and score 40 every game. That ain't happening. So he's going to have his games, and he owns the Rockets, but he's going to have some difficult ones here. But if Jimmy keeps playing like that, and that's also what you can take from it as a Rockets fan. Yo, Jimmy and Steph both went crazy, and we only lost by 10. Like, look at it that way, because you do have a chance in this series. I just don't think you got the bucket getters. And we always lose focus in the playoffs. It comes down to a couple things, yo. Can you hit threes? Right? That's probably the one thing. Are you a top 5 to 10 defensive team? And then what else? Do you got some buckets on your team? Do you have a Kyrie and a Luka? Do you have a Jimmy Butler and a Curry? You got a Luka and a Braun. You got a Tatum and a Brown. What do you got? You got Trae Young. You got Hero Bam. You got to have it to be in this environment in the first place. A Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. We forget about the real bucket getters of the league. You know, we forget that that's what it comes down to in the playoffs is what I meant to say. We forget that's what it usually comes down to. Tight games, who can make the best plays, who can make the toughest shots. That's what it comes down to, man. So, but in this series, I think the Rockets come out of it as a positive. I think Ime Udoka has done an insane job with this roster and the development of the young dudes, and just seeing how Jalen Green played this year just showed massive growth. Pulse of everybody, you know. So they're going to come back next year and be a team to be fucking reckoned with. But I just see Jalen Green one of their best players is just going to go downhill. Not going to see the floor in the fourth probably a lot. May not, he may not be closing. I should say he may not be closing a lot because he shouldn't be. So I love you all. All right, guys, that is my thoughts on the Golden State and Houston series. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. And for the podcast listeners in the full hour, we're going to keep going. For the guys, that's it. I'm out. Dude.